obsessive tweet disorder. Okay, everybody take a picture? Do we all look natural? Oh, very good looking bunch. Say Zocalo. Okay. Let's see if we can fire this up.
There we go.
It's going to be a Venn diagram.
Okay. That gonna go away? Source found? Okay, so I was just thinking as that introduction was being made, anybody have two business cards like me? One for the company they work for, and then a personal one with their Twitter URL on it. Anyone? A few of you. Okay, just a couple. That's what this presentation really is about. You know, we're entering an age where we're employees, we work for organizations, but with social networks, our own personalities are coming through, and we're becoming sort of these mini brands. And so when you see things like this, that's why. It's sort of co-branding. I work for a company, I represent them, but I also sort of represent myself. And that's an interesting balance that I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So everyone here, the common denominator is we're really interested in social media. That's why you're all here. You're passionate about it. Maybe you're curious about it. We're all learning. No one's figured it out. No one's mastered it. But I want to take a step back in this talk, and I want to not think about social media for at least a few slides. And I want to think about brands. So anyone want to take a stab at what they're looking at here?
A recyclable.
Someone was thirsty.
That's pretty good. Okay, some people might think that they're looking at a brand, but really, that's a Coke bottle, right? So it's a product. That's not Coke's brand. It's actually a product they make. They make sugar water. It goes in a bottle. There is a whole brand part of it, and some people have a preference of it, but that's not what this picture really is. How about this?
Logo.
That's a logo. You've all seen the presentation on SlideShare. Very good. Excellent. Right. So this is not Harley Davidson's brand, and a lot of people confuse the mark of a brand with a brand itself. And this is not. This is a manifestation of the Harley Davidson logo brand, and it's a great manifestation. It's a really well designed logo. It's very unique. It's actually, a lot of people will talk about badge brands. Anybody in marketing here or in branding have heard that phrase? It kind of comes from this logo. Harley Davidson is one of the most successful, recognized global brands in the world. Their brand is considered a bad brand, and literally that's what this logo is. So probably one of the most successful logos out there. Now this is really what a brand is. All right? It's more of that relationship between the product and the individual, and how that person feels about it. And there's lots of different books on brands, what a brand is, what a brand isn't. I mean, they litter the marketing bookshelves. But this is actually my favorite definition of what a brand is. Great little book called The Brand Gap, written by Marty Neumeier. And what he says is that a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. It's gut feeling. Very simple definition. I really think it pretty much nails it. Some people talk about a brand as promise, but I think this really goes to something much deeper. So we're over at Blogwell today, they were talking about how a brand is not, it's not what your company says it is, it's what people say to each other. And I think this is very related to that, right? It's not, we can certainly influence how brands are perceived and craft them, but really at the end of the day, it's what a person thinks and feels about you and what they say to other people. So this pretty much nails it on the head from my perspective. So one example of one of the more popular brands that's actually kind of been a huge success story in the past 10 plus years is Google. And an interesting thing about Google as a brand, we talked about Coke earlier. Google is the anti-Coca. Coca-Cola is traditional brand building. They have a product, sugar water, it's a commodity, and they have spent years and years and years weaving a story around that people have identified with, and that has become the brand. And so it's traditional advertising and branding working together, and it's successful because, decades later, Coke is Coke, and it is what it is. Google is really an example because Google flips that whole model over, and the Google brand becomes your interactions with it. So, and it also has been built off of word of mouth. How many people here found out about Google from somebody else when they first tried it? Okay, that's a good portion of the room, most of you. And so when we use any Google product, whether it's search or we use Google Calendar or Gmail, every time we're having a good experience with that service, that's how we relate to the brand. That's what the Google brand is to us. And the reason why that's significant is because a lot of these sort of Web 2.0 technologies that come out, that's how they're building these brands. LinkedIn, Facebook, it's all about the interactions that you have with them. They're literally building their brands on those versus any type of marketing that they can actually go around. And it's all word of mouth. So I kind of put this visual together based off of this idea that really what it comes down to is that brands, whether they're personal or corporate, are built off the quality of the interactions that you have with that company or maybe potentially even individual. And so there's this whole Stairway to Heaven and Hell that I created, which was inspired by a Led Zeppelin song. Thank you, And so it kind of goes like this. You have positive interactions with a brand, and that's consistent. That leads to credibility, which leads to authenticity, trust, and ultimately loyalty. That's ascending up the ladder. And when you descend down the ladder, it starts with negative interactions, inconsistent experiences, that leads to inauthenticity, distrust, and disloyalty. Great example, unfortunately, Microsoft, when they launched Vista, and people had really bad experiences with it, they started going down that ladder pretty quick, and they're trying to dig their way back up. It's a pretty, people understand that celebrities are larger than life, right? And so by that definition, they have lots of characteristics that brands do. When you think of Oprah, I mean, Oprah's a media company, and she's also a brand. There's the Oprah brand. Her name goes on products. I mean, all the attributes that you can give to a brand, you can look at someone like Oprah and pretty much check everything off. And so celebrities are brands. And marketing has kind of built a whole machine off of this. Celebrities do have influence, and so that's why you see endorsements. There's still tons of money. If you're an athletic company, you're going to try to find the top athlete in that field, and you're going to want to get that person to drink Gatorade or whatever the case. And if the more premium brand that you have, the more you want to go after that number one celebrity, that celebrity that is the most talked about, that has the most audience, that is front and center in people's conscious. But so here's the shift. Anybody know who this person is? Okay, one person in this room, maybe two, knows who this person is. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is Peter Merholz. And he's got kind of a fun little shirt on here that says, "I was internet famous once." But the interesting thing about this individual, even though only one person in this room knows who he is, thousands of people actually know Peter because he's very influential in the user experience field, which is lots of people. A lot of, you talk to anybody in that field and they all know who Peter is. And so it's pretty interesting because, we have these conversations and we're all, into social media, right? So the whole debate comes up, how do you have influence? And I've never heard of Chris Brogan. It doesn't matter, right? Because Chris Brogan is really important to a certain set of people, right? And he matters for them. Same thing with Peter. And so what's changed is that, people, that they don't have, obviously, like millions of people that they influence like Oprah does, but they could have tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands, and you'll never know who they are. But they're important to their own little communities. So we're kind of entering this age of a micro-celebrity. And the way that I've tried to visualize this is that, and I've seen this happen time and time again. I've actually experienced it personally. If you guys follow me, you know the situation that we went through with the homeless family. What's happening is that networks and individuals, you might have individuals that only have a network of 20, 30, 40 people. And you have thousands of those people. Then you've got a few, so those would sort of be these number fours, right? Then you've got a few that have networks of thousands of people. And there's fewer of those. And for ideas, links, content, you name it, things to go viral, things to spread, every time I've seen one happen, I've seen this model be put in action. What happens is the thousands of people that have little influence and the hundreds of people that have a lot of influence all work together and are all talking about the same thing.